गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. Om. So in the fifth chapter, today is Sunday, so we do Gita little bit. Already it is late, 20 minutes I am late. So we just half an hour will discuss something. In the 22nd shloka, regarding Jnani state, sorry, just I forgot to plug this. So in the 22nd shloka of the 5th chapter of Gita, yehi sansparshaja bhogaha dukkayonaya evate, those bhogas vishayendriya sansparshebhyo jataha bhogaha, the pleasures born of contact, born of sense organs, born of the contact of the sense organs with their objects. Senses means not only the 5 sense organs, but even the mind also. Mind is also a sense organ. Therefore, being born of the contacts of the sense organs with an external objects, there is so much of noise. They are building a house here, so continuous drilling is going on, highly disturbing. So the pleasures, the enjoyments, let us say, the enjoyments born of contact of the sense organs with the external objects, what are they? Dukkha yonaya evate. They ultimately lead to sorrow only. See, this is the discovery, a greatest discovery of our Shastras. Moderners do not have this idea at all. The entire modern civilization doesn't have this idea. That's why they run after the external worldly pleasures. They are inventing new kind of pleasures, new kind of sensations. New sensations they are discovering. They are running after new pleasures, new entertainments, something or other. In eating, you see them. How many type of objects are there eating just to satisfy your tongue? Not for health, but just satisfying the tongue. How many? But is tongue ever satisfied? Will you ever be satisfied with just the pleasures of the tongue? Tongue or even all 5 senses. So this is a discovery we have to watch and understand. And the modern civilization totally is against it. Against means they just don't understand these things. Ultimately, they lead to, because the pleasures, we have to watch the pleasures, see the experiences. If once you get a pleasure, they addict us. You want more. Again you get, again you want more. This is the very human nature or any animal nature. So once you want it, you want more. More, it makes you addicted. Once you get addicted, see the problems in it. Once you get addicted, whatever the earlier degree of pleasure, earlier amount of object is not enough. You want more quantity of it. Because the earlier would not be enough. Then another thing is, once you get addicted, your body, mind and everything gets addicted, then you cannot live without it. When you cannot live without it, then person becomes, what happened? Because of addiction, he is running after it, working for it, and then he becomes corrupt, he does everything to get the same pleasure. He doesn't mind compromising moral values, the social values, the dignity, everything he loses because that addiction is such. And mind gets bored, you leave out for a while and again you enjoy. Again leave out for a while and again you enjoy. This is what we do. So these pleasures, after some time, either the object changes or your tongue and sense organs, your mind changes. Either mind changes or the object gets exhausted. In either case, the pleasure ceases to be a pleasure. Okay. Then what happens? Once you lose the pleasure, then mind becomes bored. Mind is missing. You miss it. The missing is called dukkham. Dukkha yonaya evate. They leave you dry. They leave you in a state of missing, that you feel that you are missing it. So any pleasure makes you a dependent person, and you can't have continuously in one pleasure. Okay, continuously you can't be in touch with any one object in life, because the things keep changing, time changes, everything changes. Therefore, yehi sansparshaja bhogaha dukkha yonaya evate adyantavantah. They lead you ultimately to sorrow only. Not only the pleasures of this world, even the pleasures of other world too. If you keep on enjoying the other world, the called heaven, even the heaven is also born of a contact with our sense organs. Heaven is also temporary, because any contact with an external thing, something other than you, is only newly created, acquired contact. An acquired contact is not going to be eternal. What is natural alone is eternal. What is self-existing alone can be eternal. Anything acquired, as you acquire it, so it will be lost after some time. Therefore, adyantavantah, they begin and end. They come and go. Therefore, see, drishyante hi adhyatmikadini dukkhani tannimittanyeva. Adhyatmika, adibhautika, adidaivika. We want three kinds of pleasure. See, one is adibhautika. Adibhautika means born of sense contact. Adidaivika, that is born of some kind of a what you call devata darshana, some kind of a religious or mystic experiences, born of religious merit and religious experiences, or you can include the otherworldly experiences. They are adi daivika. Adhyatmika is your subjective pleasures, like your creativity, your art, what you call art, dance, music, etc. In these things, there is a much in your inner mind. Much depends upon your taste in it. It depends upon your adhyatmika. Sometimes your mind is pleased, mind is relaxed. People cultivate minds. Okay, you can cultivate the mind to remain in a particular state. So you can purify the mind, you can develop the mind, you can cultivate the mind. And also your prana, by pranayama also, by yogasanas, you feel so relieved and happy. But how long? After some time, again you get bored, again you need yogasana. So it's not going to be permanent. You do yogasanas, mind gets relieved and happy. You do pranayama, prana becomes light and very pleasant experience, you get it. But it's prana keeps fluctuating, it's not going to be all the time same. So after some time, again it gets back to the normal state. Again you have to induce it. So these are all induced pleasures. Okay, so adhyatmika means subjective. Subjective means by developing a healthy body, by keeping your prana healthy, by pranayama, asanas and such others. Sometimes you keep your mind healthy and pleasant in a good mood, but you can't keep all the time good mood. There will be a time when the mind will lose its mood. Mind will again get disturbed. So even the pleasures at the level of mind. Okay, if normal mind is not enough, cultivated mind. If normal mind, the happiness of the normal mind is not enough, we cultivate the mind. Cultivation is through art, music, etc. You build up a mind to a particular state. Then some kind of meditation and mystic experiences like yoga, meditation, and then bhakti, all this. So even that, because the mind keeps on thinking certain thoughts, certain ideas, it can be elevated. It can be purified, elevated. The purified, elevated state of mind definitely gives you greater pleasure compared to the earlier state. But even that is going to be limited. Adhyatmika also, you can cultivate emotions, you can cultivate not to get disturbed by the world, external world. Okay, you don't get disturbed by the external world. Take it lightly. People say develop confidence, self-confidence, and self-respect. These are all personality development, psychological treatment, all these things. They will work to some extent. Definitely one should have. But to a certain extent, not limitlessly. Therefore, after some time, these inner pleasures, subjective pleasures also go away, appear and disappear, come and go away. Therefore, all these, none of them are going to be eternal. Okay, yatha ihaloke, tatha paraloke piti. Bhashya, I am reading Bhashya. Just as in this world, these worldly pleasures are temporary, transient. So too paraloka pleasures are transient. Gamyate eva shabdat na samsare sukhasya gandhamatram astiti. Ayyo, this is the Shankaracharya's much more deeper idea. See, he says, there is no gandhamatram. There is not even a smell means not even a iota. Nothing. Samsare sukhasya gandhamatram apyasti iti buddhva. That means compared to the infinite happiness of Brahmananda, the worldly and otherworldly happinesses are too small, too temporary, too small, and leave you after they go away, after they come to an end, they leave you disappointed, sad, missing. Vishaya mrugatrishnikayaha indriyani nivartaye. Therefore, having understood the limitations, see, the limitations of cultivation is good. We don't say that you should not be refined. Lot of culture, cultivation, all this is good. But even that has a limitation. That means you are a refined person, yet not perfect person. The refinement is better compared to the very sadistic pleasures. See, nowadays the modern civilization is getting addictions, sadism, aggression, exploitation, domination, humiliating others. In these things you get some kind of a pleasure. Okay, from that you come to another level of cultivating yourself. Learn lot of arts and skills and many things you learn. They all will give you some pleasure, but even that is limited. Therefore, na kevalam dukkhayonayaha. Not only they ultimately end up in sorrow, end up in what you say bereavement. Bereavements, miss it, lose it. But also adyanta, not only they lead you to sorrow, but they are adyantavantaha, subject to ending. Adir vishayendriya sanyogo bhoganam antascha tad viyoga sanyoga viyoga. Atai adyantavanto anityaha madhyakshana bhavitvat. They only say temporarily in between. For a short while in between. Kaunteya, therefore, O Arjuna, this even a sadhaka does it. Even a sadhaka, having understood this, He will not hope much from them. He understands their limitation. Therefore, don't depend too much on them. Therefore, in order to get the absolute happiness, the total freedom, happiness born of freedom, happiness which is natural, not due to something, not an acquired happiness, but the essential nature of Atma. Therefore, Vishayeshu naramate buddha. Therefore, nateshu ramate buddha. A wise man doesn't indulge in external pleasures. It doesn't depend on them. Therefore, externally, that means he finds his happiness in the Atma. That means he becomes free from the external pleasures. He gets a freedom from the dependency of external pleasure. He doesn't need them. See, a person, there are two people. One person depends on external physical pleasures, and another person who loves a little bit of cultivated man, an artistic man, a creative person. He gets a joy of, an artistic person or a poetic person, he enjoys the joy of emotions rather than physical pleasures. A poet enjoys much more deeper. Or a scientist or a thinker, he enjoys certain intellectual discoveries, understanding. Understanding gives a pleasure. Discovery gives a pleasure. Cultivate. So these are of different level. My emotions, emotional, artistic pleasures are at the level of mind, not at the level of body. Simply indulging in worldly pleasures, sense touch, is a bodily pleasures. So a person who gets the happiness of a subtler one. Subtler means mind is, prana is subtler than body. Mind is subtler than body and prana. Intellect is still subtler than these three: body, prana, and sense organ and mind. Body means sense organs. So sense organs, prana, and mind, these are still lower level. Intellectual or mystic experiences are still deeper. Deeper one. But all these four, the mystic experiences are intellectual ones, then emotional ones, then prana level, then sense organ level. These are the four levels. He understands the limitations of them and he transcends them. Doesn't identify, doesn't depend on them, doesn't expect, doesn't identify, mainly doesn't identify. So he seeks his identity at a higher level. A sadhaka does it, but a jnani achieves that level. So in spiritual culture, civilizations, that is considered as a higher civilization. Civilized person, cultured person, much better person. And that person requires to be unprejudiced, open-minded, a saintly person, friendly person, loves everybody, respects everybody, cares everybody. So it involves good moral values also. There is a joy in developing good values: selflessness, serving, taking care of others, giving up your selfishness. So in the values also give you a certain degree of pleasure, higher degree of pleasure. Therefore, a society which adopts these higher levels of pleasure is definitely more cultured society. More cultured society. Therefore, the society gives an education. In education, we think of these higher levels. But people want more sense pleasures and power to control others. Because in controlling others, you need what you call technological skill, power, political power, social power, economic power. So political power, economic power, social power, power itself gives you certain kind of a kick, a ego satisfaction. But you control others, subjugate others, keep them under your control, that also gives you some kind of an ego satisfaction. But that is an addiction. Not only addiction, if you lose it, if some the other person refuses his subjugation, you get angry, you become unhappy. You want others to be subjugated to me. So all these things, it makes you more asuric. Asuric means more a aggressive person, very devilish person, demoniac person, because you want to control others. This controlling a different level. You want to control music, art, society, and knowledges also you want to control. Everything people want to control. Even the religion become another control, another ego trip alone. To some people, religion also is a matter of controlling others. In controlling others, you get a kick, because this shows a dependency, ego's dependency. So all these things, pleasures, will make a person more pervert person and wicked person, and it doesn't give any joy at all. The real joy when you transcend. That means at the level of sense organs, you have a control. At the level of prana, you purify the prana. At the level of mind, again, emotions are purer, simpler, and elevated emotions, very highly, purer emotions, nobler emotions. Even thoughts also, ideals and ideologies. The joy in ideals and ideology also, you have got a noble ideas and ideals, not imposing, controlling, dominating others, but rather understanding, sharing. So you have got a noble ideals and noble ideology, an ideology of a thinking which is based upon the facts of life. And the political power also, you want to help and help the other than control others. Okay. So even the moral values, ideals, they are all of positive values and positive ideals. And you transcend even that in Vedanta, because the very individuality is melted away, and your individuality is falsified. You discover yourself to be the consciousness, which is the Atma of everybody. They say that the consciousness is not your individual alone, it is a broad consciousness, infinite consciousness, which includes all others. Which includes all others, the world, people, animals, and everything. You see everybody as yourself. Yourself is not an individual self. After transcending the individual self, there is a broad infinite self. Infinite self means it includes all other people. So the Jnani lives as that. That is called infinite self, means Brahmatma. Infinite is Brahma. Self is Atma, oneself. Oneself as an infinite being. Brahmatma. So he discovers himself to be Brahma. In that Brahma discovery, there is a greatest joy, absolute joy. That's just uncomparable, incomparable with anything else. And it is not only a joy, it is a freedom. Generally, we get worldly pleasures. In all these 3 or 4 levels which I have talked, but there is a dependency on it. Even in intellectual pleasures, there is a dependency. Supposing you are working for another thing, you are not getting something, then you feel disappointed, frustrated. You feel that you are missing something. So in every pleasure, there is a degree of little bit of missing also. But this is the only happiness which gives you freedom, because it is natural to you. You are not acquired. You don't depend on others. It is natural. You don't depend upon others. And there is an absolute freedom also. It is a freedom, it is a happiness, and nothing negative in it. And you are also equally loving and selfless with everybody else. Don't compete with others. Don't feel jealous of others. Because people, if you get something good, you are afraid of others, because there is a fear. Fear of jealousy, others' jealousy, others snatching away. See, if you have got a power, you are always afraid that somebody else may take away my power. See, every pleasure, every happiness is associated by a fear of losing it. Fear of others dominating and I am losing it. Okay. But this absolute Atma's happiness is free from jealousy, because others cannot snatch it. It is natural to you. It doesn't depend upon anything other than you. and you have no fear of losing it, fear of others taking away, others being jealous of you, because you cannot show it and others cannot compete with you, because you include all others, the entire humanity, the entire living beings, all the world is you. In that thing there is no second person other than you. You include all of them. In that understanding of universality, there is nobody else who can feel jealous of you. There is nobody else who can take away, who can challenge, who can snatch away your happiness. Nobody can pose a problem to you, disturb it, or obstruct. If I derive happiness from power, somebody may takes away power, I lose the happiness, because my happiness depends on power. My happiness depends on money. My enjoyments depend upon another person. If that person doesn't cooperate, if doesn't protest, resists and goes away or dies, you are separated, you suffer. Even the emotional dependency creates a problem. Therefore, you require a deeper sensitivity. That's why when a little bit of sensitivity comes, mind has to be still purified and you have to discover the Atma. You see, in our music, art and such things, a little bit of sensitivity you may discover, but you don't know how to maintain that sensitivity. That sensitivity poses more problem. Therefore, people snub it by drinking, they make it insensitive, isn't it? If you develop a little sensitivity, you don't know how to maintain it. You cannot control it. You cannot retain it. Therefore, will people lose energy and become insensitive by drinking, by overindulging in pleasures. That means you make your mind dull again. But the dullness doesn't give you happiness. True, but if you have a higher level, sensitive level, people are unable to stay with that sensitivity. They are not unable to absorb it, unable to stay with it, so they lose it again. So these are all the weakness. One has to come out of all these weaknesses. That's why we have got various sadhanas, japa, meditation, purification. Purification is required. And then the discovery of transcendence, discovery of Atma beyond the mind. Because all these things happen, all these up and downs happen only at the level of mind. Therefore, one has to transcend the mind, discover the consciousness which is independent of mind. Mind is also a consciousness alone. In fact, there is no such thing called mind. Very consciousness in a limited level is called mind. Mind is consciousness, but in a limited level, that's all. It is a limited level and impure level. Two things we can say. It is limited as well as impure. You have to make it infinite and you have to make it pure also. Pure and infinite. When the mind is purified and made it infinite, then the mind ceases to be mind, it becomes Atma only. That's why Gaudapada Acharya in Mandukya says, Manasaha amani bhave. When the mind becomes no mind, then you get the Atma. Mind becoming no mind means what? Understanding that mind is not different from the pure consciousness. The yogic way is different from Vedantic way. In Vedantic way, you only stop the thoughts, that's all. The stuff of the mind remains. See, the mind has got the two things. One is the thoughts, the ripples, the waves. The ripples and waves and the stuff of the mind. They retain the stuff of the mind and only thoughts are stopped. How do you stop? Not forcibly. But first, you reduce all the thoughts into a broad thought. All the various thoughts are reduced into their own. See, there are various kinds of thoughts, various groups of thoughts, various kinds of thoughts. All the various thoughts are reduced to that one kind, common thought. Then these common thoughts are reduced into further common. Then there is a broad thought, a generalized thought. And that thought again, you merge that thought into the stuff of the mind. That means you don't transcend the mind. You remain at the level of mind alone. Only thing is the purest state of mind. But in Vedanta, we understand the mind itself is a false entity. It is an adhyasa. Mind or a thought doesn't exist apart from the consciousness. When consciousness misunderstood appears as a thought, consciousness misunderstood appears as a thought. There you correct the misunderstanding and discover the inner Atman, which is the core, which is the substance, which is the reality of the mind, substance of the mind, the truth of the mind. Mind is a false state of the Atma, which is the truth of it. So, in compared to yogis, Vedanta helps you to discover. They only purify the mind and take the mind in its highest form, purest form. Yogis make a purest form of mind, that's all. Purest form and most broadest form. Broad means universal mind. They come to the universal mind, but not mindless. They don't transcend the mind. Though they talk of Nirvikalpa Samadhi, Nirvikalpa Samadhi is not mindless. Note this, Chitta Vritti Nirodha. The Yoga Sutra says, the only waves of the mind are stopped. Mind is made waveless. Not the transcending the wave. Only waves are tentatively stopped, but mind remains. That means a kind of a subtle thought. It is a subtle thought alone. That's why they say Chitta Vritti is Nirodha, but Chitta is not removed. Prakriti or Chitta. Prakriti is Chitta, that is a mind. But in Vedanta alone, what you call mind is nothing but a false understanding of the consciousness. This is extra in Vedanta. With yoga doesn't have it. Therefore, Jnani Buddha Naramate, he doesn't, by understanding the limitations of all these kinds of pleasures, he doesn't get addicted to them. Okay, he keeps transcending. Transcending means he keeps on, he looks for a deeper joy. Deeper means a subtler level. From the body, that is sense organ level to, goes to the prana. From prana goes to the mind. From mind to the intellect. In the mind and intellect, again certain mystic experiences. It transcends even yogic and mystic experiences. Then comes to the truth, which is absolute and natural. Okay. Therefore, Nateshu Ramate Buddha, Jnani's joy, Jnani's happiness is of the nature of Atma. It is one with the Atma. Okay. Having said this, Shankaracharya gives a small comment at the end. Who indulges? Why people don't give up in these worldly pleasures? Because people get addicted to them. They remain there alone. It requires purification, search, discovery. It is like you are searching. That means you have to prepare your mind, purify yourself. You have to grow inwardly so that you will be fit for enjoying a deeper joy, subtler joy. And the modern civilization lives at the level of ego or sense pleasures or too much of emotions or ego. That's all. They remain at the three level. Either sense pleasures, entertainment and all that. Even the music, there are three kinds of musics. Art and poetry, and music are also three types. Tamasa, Rajasa, Satvika. They are too superficial music. Only gives you beats alone. Beats means a lot of noise and rhythm, that's all, nothing more in it. But if you go to the music, there is a deeper level, which touches your heart and purifies you. It melts your ego rather than satisfying the ego. So the music also, there is a Satvika, sublime music. Art, poetry also is a much sublime one. That's why Ramayana, Mahabharata, they call her sublime. Instead of superficial. Entertaining is superficial. A sublime music is much deeper. That makes a person sattvic. Okay. It changes your very personality, whole your character. makes you selfless, it looks more divine, more spiritual, more Vedantic. Bhakti, yoga, all these things do that. So those who indulge in external worldly pleasures alone, sense organs, at the level of sense organs, they are called animals alone, because they look like instinctive, impulsive pleasures. See, Pashupraya, he says, similar to animal. They live at the level, they live at the happinesses similar to animal, he says. Similar to animals. That means animals mostly live instinctively and impulsively. They just indulge in eating, and what you call running and all kind of things, and quarreling and defeating. That's all. They live at that level alone. The much deeper level, because they don't have a mind which can be cultivated, purified into the higher level. Therefore, Pashuprayeshu, so among the human beings also, most of the people indulge in such pleasures which are common to animals, instinctive and impulsive pleasures. These days, when they talk of freedom, religion controls, society controls. Why should society control? Why should government control? Why should law control? Why should religion control? They say whoever controls are sadistic. They reduced religion, government law, elderly people, parents, everything they reduced into dictatorship. Or they call them dictatorship or sadism. Others controlling is only sadists, egoistic dictatorship. Therefore, we want freedom. Freedom for what? Just to do whatever you feel. That means whatever impulsive, your mind is instinctive, impulsive mind. Whatever impulse I get, I just want to do. Whatever I get it. Nobody should question. Any fancies also should not question. Any impulses, instincts and fancy. Yeah, fancy, I can add the third word. Instinct, impulse and fancy. Anything you fancy, just to get curious and want to do that. And nobody should stop me. In these things, fancies will take you to anywhere. Fancies and impulses. People, you see, try to do anything. They destroy nature. They become too cruel. But they say cruelty, hatred, exploitation, rape, murder, all these things, because you get a sadistic pleasure. They say this is my freedom. So the freedom has become a wild and freedom itself has become a bondage for people. In the name of freedom, the modern society, modern civilized society has got too many options. Too many options also, people don't know what to do. There is a tension, anxiety. There is an anxiety because too many options, you don't know what to do. Ultimately, people become directionless. Some people ask me, Swamiji, ultimately, what is my goal? What is my goal of life? What should I do? Because there are too many options. You can do anything. You can become a politician. You can become a businessman. You can make money. You can go abroad. You can do anything. You can do anything. You can climb the Himalayas. You can go for mountaineering, trekking. You can do anything. You can learn music, dance. So many things are there. You don't know what to do. What should I do? Too many things. Too many options. In Varna Vyavastha, in our Indian caste system, caste is not a right word, but anyway, we just use a near about. So in these things, we have certain, according to your family, your culture, your childhood, so they give you certain options and you work within that area. And we wanted a qualitative living rather than quantity. Earlier, they would emphasize the quality. If your mind becomes purer and inward, whichever profession you are, your degree of joy, your depth of happiness is different. Therefore, whichever profession you are practicing, the profession should be useful to society. It should not destroy nature, and it should not make you an animalistic also. In fact, it should purify you. Therefore, whatever profession, whatever family you are born in, you would continue. Whatever caste you are born, It is the qualitatively you improve your life. Wherever you are born, practice the same profession, your parental profession, your ancestral profession. It is, you bring the quality by purifying your mind, purifying your personality. So you get a deeper joy of creativity, deeper understanding of life. So these deeper goals are not taught to people. People say, I just do whatever I like. Whatever your like has no goal. Like is not a well thought out one. Your like, it could be an impulse, it could be a fancy, or it could be instinct. Instinct is not a thoughtful one. Does instinct come out of thinking? Does impulse come out of thinking? Does fancy come out of a very creative understanding? Good, logical, thorough, deeper understanding? A fancy or impulse or instinct, all these things are like mechanical, repetitive and mechanical, just like a mechanical. Habit also, habit is mechanical. Whatever you are living in particular thing, whatever your addiction and habits are addictions. Once or twice you have enjoyed, or 10 times, that's all. It wants again and again and again and again. It's a repetitive, forceful. It forces you, and it repeats, that's all. There is no depth in it. It's only a habit, pushes you, forces you, and you remain it, because the habit is forcing me. What can I do? The addiction. And people say that it is a freedom. People want freedom to get addicted, and they say this is my freedom. Do we understand how the freedom is nothing but a curse of the modern civilization? They think freedom is great. Okay, freedom is true, but if you want to learn and grow and into a deeper life. But instead of using the freedom for these things, many people use freedom just for remain addicted. Nobody should push me to come out of my addictions, come out of my fancies, come out of my impulsive nature. That's why people angry, hatred, ego are considered natural. Therefore, angry natural, ego natural, hatred natural, jealousy natural. Fulfill your hatred, fulfill your jealousy, fulfill your revenge, and that considered as great. So this revenge, hatred, all these things are impure, unnatural, because they are based upon ego, not based upon Atma. In the nature of Atma, all these things are negative, because that means Atma is covered up. They go away from the Atma. That means it is not your natural state. Natural state is Atma. So natural state brings love, peace, joy, selflessness, no hatred, openness. So the nature of Atma expresses in all positive qualities. The unnatural Atma, that is a false Atma, that is a Jiva. Unnatural Atma, false Atma or Jiva develops all these instincts, impulses, ego, and that ego it wants the ego to be satisfied, but after satisfaction it feels displeased and again wants more ego. So it is a vicious circle. If you have an ego, you cannot be happy without satisfying. Even after satisfying, you can't be happy. This is called artificial. Ego is artificial thing. Whether you satisfy ego or you don't satisfy, either way you will be unhappy. See, if you are angry, hate, out of anger, should you fulfill your anger or not? Should you fulfill your hatred or not? If you fulfill your hatred, if you don't fulfill your hatred, you feel humiliated, you feel unhappy. Okay, hate a person and go and hit him and humiliate him. You go and harm him. Even after harming, still you are hurt. Because in harming other, you harm yourself also. You hurt yourself. So even after fulfilling that egoistic desires, still you are unhappy. Because something you miss there. Because it is not a spontaneous, natural love. The love, peace, friendliness, selflessness, not exploiting, not cheating, taking everybody, loving everybody. These are all the natural qualities of Atma, natural values, natural qualities of Atma. Therefore, in the nature of Atma, you don't find these negative problems. Therefore, that natural Atma is free. Free means it is neither, it doesn't feel that you are oppressed, neither you feel oppressed nor you are afraid of something. It is fearless. It doesn't feel oppressed because it voluntarily loves and serves everybody. When you voluntarily love and serve people, voluntarily you take up serving people, you don't feel oppressed. If somebody forcibly asks you to do, you feel oppressed, you feel enslaved. So it is a freedom. You don't feel oppressed with anything. Anywhere, any life you live, you don't feel oppressed, you don't feel humiliated. You grow to such a level, you discover your Atma in such a level where nothing can humiliate you. Nothing can control you, where you don't feel that you are oppressed, you are controlled, you are humiliated, you are denied freedom. Because you don't feel, because nobody can take away your freedom. Because freedom doesn't depend upon others. If it depends upon others, others give freedom, others take away freedom. But the inner Atma, when you discover that the Atma's freedom depends upon Atma only, it doesn't depend upon external, social, political, or others. So others can neither give freedom nor take away the freedom. So this freedom you discover, it is fearless. It doesn't feel oppressed, depressed, or controlled by others. Others cannot control me. I am free. So there is no fear, no feeling of being controlled by others. So you feel, and somebody is near me, somebody is other, you don't feel, neither you feel jealous of others, nor you feel disturbed by others' jealousy. Neither you hate others, nor you feel disturbed by others' hatred. Others' hatred doesn't disturb you. So that inner freedom is the Atma. Therefore, this Atma, when you discover, when you understand, it has got all positive qualities, spontaneous, natural qualities. They are not cultivated, they are not relative to a given situation, given person, or given society. It is absolute, it's totally free. Free from time and place. That means it is not conditional. It is not situational. The freedom of Atma, the happiness of Atma is not conditional, it is not situational. Whatever is the external situation, you are free. Irrespective of what condition, social condition, economic condition, worldly condition, global condition, whatever is the external condition, inwardly you are free. See, that inner freedom doesn't depend upon external situations. So this discovery of inner Atma requires a highly pure mind, a selfless mind, highly creative person. So therefore Atma Vichara is the highest creativity. And Atma is not an individual. Therefore, there is nobody other than you who can threaten you, who can take away your happiness, your freedom. Your freedom and happiness neither can be taken nor... That the modern people talk of freedom means freedom to be impulsive, instinctive, and fanciful. But that freedom doesn't give you freedom. Even if you practice freedom, still you feel. That's why some people say that, freedom has become open, too much it has become. Therefore, you want to submit somebody, surrender to somebody, you want to love, and you want to be bound by love. You want others to take freedom with me and then love me, care for me. Since I love them, you want others to take freedom with me and then want to control. They say, I want you to do this thing. You feel happy that somebody loves me. When he loves you, he put a condition. I want you to do these things for me. I want you to get it for me. I want you to buy this something for me. I want you to be here alone. You feel proud that somebody loves you. See, love means they control you. They'll expect you. Then you feel voluntarily, happily you want. See here, you see. Here freedom means again, you want to voluntarily surrender to others, and others should control you and dominate you and give you some instructions, and you want to obey. In obeying, you feel some kind of a freedom, some kind of a joy. So the freedom, the so-called the present freedom, the jiva's freedom is not a freedom at all. Because even the so-called freedom to be instinctive, impulsive, or kind of a fanciful, even if you fulfill the freedom, it doesn't satisfy. Just now I told you an example of ego. Out of ego, you feel hatred, you hate, or you are angry. You try to fulfill your anger. Even after fulfilling, still you feel you are left disappointed. Something deeply hurts you. If you hate somebody, if you have a hatred, you have to fulfill it. It pressurizes you. You fulfill also unhappy. You don't express your hatred also unhappy. Either way, you are unhappy. Anger, whether fulfilled or unfulfilled, unhappy. So this modern so-called freedom. Freedom means you just want to be wayward, just want to do whatever you like. You do whatever you like, but still you will become unhappy. In spite of freedom, you are unhappy. Again, you are looking for something else. Therefore, this jiva's freedom, yatheshtacharana we call. That means the waywardness, whether you have a freedom or you don't have a freedom, either way you are unhappy. You require a real freedom of the Atma. The real freedom comes only in the Atma. Atma by nature is free. Okay. Therefore, this is discussed in the next shloka, 23rd. Shaknoti hai. Oh, time is up. Anyway, I'll just read out the shloka and leave it. Shaknoti hai vayas sodum praksharira vimokshanat kama krododbhavam vegam sayuktasya sukhe naraha. Kama kroda. Vega means the force of lust, force of desire, force of ego, force of anger, force of hatred. These forces are controlling us. And people say, I want freedom. What freedom? The very desire for freedom itself is for sake of fulfilling these desires. Desires, anger, frustrated, ego. You want to express your frustration, you want to express your jealousy, you want to express your ego, you want to express your hatred. You want freedom to express these things. But that itself is a bondage. You are bound by those things. Even after fulfilling, you won't be happy. Better to control these impulses of anger, desire, frustration, fear. You have to purify them. You have to control them. And you have to grow out of them. That gives you real freedom. And people want freedom for these egos, frustrations, expression and all that. Freedom to be angry, freedom to exploit, freedom to hate, freedom to do everything. They say that's a freedom. But that is not a freedom. Even after you getting freedom, still you remain unhappy. Better to control them, at least to limit them. The anger, frustration, desire, and etc., hatred, at least to control them, limit them, then gradually sublimate them, purify them. Nowadays, these impulsive, the music, art music, and then and what you call poetry. Art, poetry, music are becoming an expressions of these what you call superficial feeling, too crude feelings, or let us say crude feelings, instinctive, impulsive, crude feeling of hatred, anger. You write a poem with a lot of hatred, intense hatred. People say, ah, great poem. You write painting by just protesting, showing your anger, rebelling, hating somebody, and they call it as a great poem. Great poetry, great music. That means even the music, art and poem also is expressing crude feelings of animalistic, crude and cruel feelings, egoistic feelings. Therefore, the music, art also becomes very crude. It doesn't purify you, doesn't make you inward, doesn't make you spiritual. Therefore, even these things should be purified. The social living, social contacts also, the family relationships, the social relationship, or even the national relationships of politics, everything should be based upon dharma. Dharma means it takes you to your inner level. Not based upon ego and superficial, crude, false ego, false individuality. They take you towards your true Atma, the true real Atma, real self, not to the false self, which is ego and individuality and all. So the values which open up your inner Atma, they are considered as a real dharma because they are closer to your Atma. Okay. Therefore, this 23rd shloka talks of these things. I think in fact, I already partly talked of it anyway, but whatever little more is there, we will discuss in the next class. and with proceed with the last Brahmananda. Okay. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Hari Om Tat Sat.